Hello, I'm going to show you how to change the oil on a 2024 Nissan Kicks S. To do this oil change, you're going to want a new oil filter, oil drain plug gaskets, an oil funnel, an oil filter wrench, torque wrench, 14mm socket, ratchet, new engine oil, probably 5 quarts, paper towel, gloves, an oil catch pan, a car jack that has a front end with wheels that don't stick out too far, and 4 jack stands that have a fairly low profile. And to get started, I'm going to warm up and stir up the oil by driving the car a little bit. Okay, the oil's now warm, it's not hot, and we need to lift up the vehicle. There are various ways to do that, but I'm going to be using these pinch welds. I'm going to use a low profile jack stand, get that underneath that pinch weld. Now there's a problem. There's only one reinforced pinch weld by the front wheel, and if I put my jack here, then I won't have anywhere to put the jack stand. And so I'm actually gonna jack it up here, which I don't think you're supposed to do according to Nissan. I don't know, but that's what I'm gonna do, and then I'll have this freed up so I can put my jack stand there. And to do this, I'm gonna need a low profile jack stand. I've got this from Harbor Freight. I'm gonna need a low profile jack. And you can see there aren't any wheels that stick out from the sides here, so that's going to allow me to get this tight up against that jack stand. And that's important because I don't have much room to work with. The jack stand is right underneath this reinforced point where it's supposed to be, and the jack is as close as I could get it next to it. We're going to do this on the other side on the front end. Okay, here we are on the other side of the front end, and you can see where I put my jack. And I've actually got 2 jacks, but you don't need 2 jacks, you can do this with 1. I've got these right next to each other again, and you just put that jack stand right underneath that extra reinforced jack point. Your jack needs to go right next to it, but of course it's not recommended, so don't do this. It's for entertainment purposes only. You want to jack this up until the tire's just off the ground if you're going to rotate the tires. We're at the rear wheel now. I put the jack stand underneath that extra reinforced pinch weld, and that jack goes right next to it, and there is a little bit more room on this side with that pinch weld being reinforced a good ways away from where the jack stand's supposed to go. Okay, now we're at the rear passenger side wheel. I put that jack stand right underneath that extra reinforced pinch weld, and I put the jack as close to it as I can get it, although there is a little bit more room in the back end. Like I said, I just put that jack's right here. And for a little bit of extra safety, I went back to the front end and positioned the jack right next to the jack stand. And there's no weight on the jack, but it's just touching that pinch weld. And I've got one on each side of the front. It's just an extra safety factor in case the car wants to move off those jack stands. One thing about jacking up vehicles is as you're working your way around the car, doing it wheel by wheel, you can throw off the wheels that you've already done. And so I had to come back to my front end and increase the height of this jack stand 1 more notch, because as I lifted the back wheel, it propped this wheel up a little bit more. You do want to make sure that your car is level when you're doing this, because you want your oil change to be accurate, and you also want it to be safe when you're working under there. Pop the hood. There's a yellow lever underneath the hood right by the logo. Just push that to the left and then pull up on the hood. Attached to the hood itself is a kickstand right there. Swing the kickstand down and put the end of it in that little hole there. That'll hold the hood up. That's your oil fill cap. You're gonna take this and just loosen it up and keep it set on there. The vent open. Get yourself a ratchet and a 14mm socket and some gloves. There's the oil filter, and right behind that is a oil drain plug right where I have the socket. You're going to turn it counterclockwise to loosen it. Once it's loosened up, make sure you have your oil catch pan ready, and you're just going to take this off, and you're going to pay attention. You want the gasket for the oil drain plug to come with it. The oil drain plug gasket came off with that plug. Sometimes it can be left behind. You want to make sure if it is left behind that you take that off before the new one goes on. Go ahead and let this fully drain before you take this oil filter off. You need to get that old oil drain plug gasket off, and I'm going to use the screwdriver with a flathead bit. You'll need a new oil drain plug gasket, and I'm going to use the OEM part because I don't want to void my warranty. It's a brand new vehicle. Here's the OEM part number. That's what these things look like, and since it's not rubber, you don't need to pre-wet it with oil. I'm going to put this gasket on like this and thread it all the way in, and that's what it should look like before you tighten it back on. And once the oil's done dripping, make sure the mating surface is clean using a paper towel, and then torque down the oil drain plug to the torque spec, which is this number. Now get the oil filter wrench. You might be able to do this without it, but it's good to have. Take this oil filter off by turning it counterclockwise. Yep, I need the wrench. Once you have it loose enough to turn by hand, get your oil catch pan and put it right underneath that filter because the oil's going to start coming out. And get your new oil filter. Wet this gasket on the new oil filter using oil, and you're going to fill it up using new oil. And now that your new oil filter is filled with new oil and the gasket's been wetted with oil, you're going to thread this on where the old oil filter came off. Make sure that your mating surface is clean before you do this. Now the oil filter is hand tight. I'm going to take a paper towel and clean this area up so that if there is an oil leak anywhere, we'll know that it's a leak and not just remnants from the last oil change. The owner's manual says that if you change the oil filter, as I've done in this video, then the oil change will take about 4 3/8 quarts. I'm using Mobil 1 full synthetic 0W20 oil. It meets the GF6A requirement. Because this oil container is 5 quarts and it was unopened right before this oil change, I'm going to pour this oil into the oil fill nozzle until I'm down to 1 quart remaining in the container, and that'll be just less than what I need for this oil change. And I'll see how the oil level looks at that point. If I need any more, I'll pour a little bit more in. Make sure your oil funnel is clean. Remove your oil fill cap and put the oil funnel into the oil fill nozzle. Now you shouldn't pour cold oil into a really hot engine, but my engine is just warm, and so it's okay to pour this oil in. Now I just realized they put the alternator in a really bad spot, so it's not a bad idea to put some paper towels over the alternator, just in case you spill some oil. And also there's a serpentine belt right underneath there. I've finished adding oil and I've tightened the oil fill cap on securely, and now I'm going to run the vehicle for about 5 minutes and let it cool down for 10 minutes, and then I will check the oil level using the dipstick. To check the oil level, you just pull the dipstick out. Got a yellow handle here, and then you wipe it off with a paper towel. Make sure there's no lint on it, put it back in, and then pull it back out again, and the oil level should be in between these 2 holes on the dipstick. Every time you check the oil level, make sure that you put the dipstick back into place and that it clicks firmly into place. If you need to add more oil, shut your engine off before you add it. I'm going to lower my vehicle by reversing the procedure I used to jack it up. Before I do that, I'm going to get everything out from under the vehicle. I believe that higher trim levels of the 2024 Nissan Kicks have buttons here that can be used to reset the oil change interval counter. I do not think that this base model S has an oil change interval counter. Some auto parts stores recycle used engine oil for free. Some fast oil change places may also do this. I even found one fast oil change place that used engine oil to operate a heater, although I'm not sure how safe that is because there's a lot of nasty stuff inside used engine oil.